I am so intrigued with this next group of educators that we have before you. They are, in addition to being educators, they are BOLD leadership consultants. And BOLD is building organizational leadership and development. And without further ado, I've got to just bring them to the stage. The BOLD consultants and these amazing educators. Welcome, welcome, welcome. How is everyone today?
Good morning. We are so excited to be here with you.
Yes, I am absolutely fascinated about this entire concept and could not wait to get on to talk with you guys just to hear a little deeper information about this whole BOLD concept. And so before we get started, you're going to have to introduce yourselves. Let us know who you are individually before we talk about you all collectively. Damon Qualls, you can kick it off for us.
All right. I'm Damon Qualls, fourth year principal in Greenville, South Carolina. I had the pleasure of meeting you and working with the first volume of Next in Line to Lead, the voice of the assistant principal. And I'm so excited to be here and be able to introduce to you some of our BOLD leadership consultants so they can take it.
I love it. I love it. Carlos Grant, you're going to kick it off again with us.
Hi, thank you. Hi, Dr. Porter, for having us this morning. My name is Dr. Carlos Grant. I serve as the proud principal of Wade Hampton High School, which is right here in Greenville, South Carolina. And just very eager to have some great conversations this morning with a wide variety of very talented gentlemen.
Thank you. Chris McCants.
Great morning, Dr. Porter. I'm Chris McCants. I am the principal of Florence Chapel Middle School in Spartanburg, South Carolina. This is my 6th year as a principal, my 9th year as an administrator, and I'm excited about being here with you this morning.
Thank you so much. Pharrell Thomas.
Good morning, everyone, and Dr. Porter. My name is Pharrell Thomas. I am a first-year principal at Waterloo Elementary School in Lawrence, South Carolina, a rural school here in our state and still part of the upstate. And this is my 6th year as an administrator and first year as a principal, but and 17th year in education. So I'm excited to join you, and when we all get together, it's always a great discussion.
I love it. I love it. Corey Collington.
Good morning, everybody. Dr. Porter, thank you for having us on here today. I am Corey Collington, proud principal at Berea Middle School in Greenville County School District. This is again my 3rd year and my 6th year as a principal, 15th year in education. So I'm glad to be here with my brothers this morning and with you. So thank you for having us.
I love it. Mr. Edward Anderson.
Yes, ma'am. Again, Edward Anderson here. I am the executive director for On Track Greenville here in Greenville, South Carolina. On Track Greenville is a program that was designed to leverage community resources and bring partners around the table to help students graduate from high school. So I have the pleasure of working with schools in the upstate to impact students' trajectories. I did serve as a principal for 3 years prior to this role. This is my 1st year in this role as executive director.
I love it. And so let me just tell you guys, I love everything about this concept. Being educators, first of all, is notable. Being educational leaders is notable. But then when you step out into that entrepreneurship, which is my space with the entrepreneurs, I absolutely love it. So I applaud you, first of all, for doing that, because we know in this seat of principalship, it's not easy. And so to step out to do something additionally, I applaud you for that. And Damon, I want to start with you because ever since we've connected, I've been following you and just love your energy. And so when I saw this, I was like, oh my goodness, I love it. And so can you start out with the whole concept of how this even began? What's the backstory of BOLD?
Right. So I'll be very honest. I've had a lot of conversations with you about our district. We're a very unique district, very unique part of the state. And for the majority of my career, although I've had interaction with African-American male leaders, nothing comes close to what BOLD has been. We sometimes can be very focused and driven and want to be that dude, and we don't really include others in our journey. And I was guilty of that. And last summer, I had an opportunity to go out, and we were celebrating a promotion. Dr. Anderson was moving from principalship into his position with On Track. And we had interacted, on committees and in meetings or whatnot, but really never sat down and just kicked it, and just was very open and honest and shared our stories. And from that one experience that summer, last summer, there has not been one day that we have not had some sort of communication, whether it is, building each other up before we get to campus in the morning, whether it's discussing an idea that we can do to extend our mentoring or networking services. Every day, there's a bold conversation taking place. And when you have that kind of inspiration and that kind of motivation being sown into you daily, bold is nothing but a choice. So I'm so excited and so honored to be a part of this group.
Hashtag bold is a choice.
Bold is a choice.
I got it. I got it. So guys, this is phenomenal. And I'm all about collaboration. And when I see a team of educators come together for the good of making it better for our students, because that's really the bottom line. When we as leadership coaches, when we're helping leaders, it's all to impact students, right? That's the bottom line. And so I don't want anyone to be confused about what the goal is. Right. And so I'm just going to pose this question, and I'm just going to choose someone to respond. In your work, because this is a fairly new concept, am I correct? Yes, this is fairly new. So what do you hope to achieve in working with leaders as you go out? What is the goal, Chris? What do you want to achieve out of all of this that you're doing, this wonderful collaboration, helping leaders get better, get their craft? What do you want to come out of it?
Well, one of the biggest things I think is that I believe all good leaders make other leaders. And I think, and they make other leaders better. And I think that is pretty much our concept, is to help other leaders become better, to develop as professionals. We also want to help leaders understand the background of African-American children. We see this a lot in our schools where there's a lack of education, that there are a lot of teachers. Again, we have to think about the career we're in. We're dominated by white females. And oftentimes they don't have that skill set in the background to understand how to deal with our children. So one of the things that we want to do as well is go into school systems and just kind of talk about some trauma that, African-American students may face and how to deal with that. That just because they come in gruff or whatever, that doesn't mean they're a bad child or a mean child. They just got weight that they're carrying that you may not understand. So we want to help other educators understand that concept and of bold leadership.
Bold leadership. I love it. Dr. Carlos Grant, I want to go to you next. With everything that's happening with with Black Lives Matter, I would say the most of the focus is on our Black males, right? We are sitting here surrounded by Black males. And so you have to know that what you guys are doing are making a bold statement. You have to know that. And so how do you think you all can take this concept to help outside of the doors of academics? Because it truly is going to impact many avenues, right? You do know it's not just going to be focused on education. So Dr. Grant, how do you see it really impacting society?
Well, you're 100% correct. First off, is that, when we talk about bold leadership, we're not just talking about just in education. Certainly education is where, our expertise lies as far as leading educational institutions. But we're thinking much broader than that. We're thinking about leadership in general. And I'll give you an example. We think as the exemplars that young boys can aspire to be and be better than. We also think it's important that we bring awareness to issues that affect people that look like us. This upcoming Tuesday, we're going to have a forum conversation about mental health in the Black community and dispelling stigmas that are associated with your own well-being, particularly men of color, because so much things associated with being prideful and strong. And so we're going to have those kind of tough conversations. So our leadership strategies and goals extend certainly within the walls of education, but certainly in a lot larger context and what it means for us in this community.
I'm glad to know that. Thank you for that. Corey Collins, and I'm going to go to you next. I want to talk about the school to prison pipeline, because we know that that's a real thing. First of all, for those who are not sure, that is a real thing. And working with leaders, which in turn working with teachers, how can we really help educators understand the disparities and the being not aligned with all of your white males, your white females, that our little Black boys and little Black girls and brown girls, because research has now shown that the little ladies are also being penalized more harsher than our counterparts. What's the first step in allowing educators to really see this for face value?
We first have to have those conversations, those tough conversations that sometimes we don't want to have, with our teachers, and talk about our disciplinary practices and what we're seeing in the classroom. It all starts with building relationships with the kids. And that's my first thing always when I talk to teachers, is before we can discipline that child, we got to know that student, we got to know that parent, we have to know we need to know the community that we serve in. And so we can't just punish a child, and it starts early. It starts in kindergarten, elementary, middle school. And, when we have that kid that come to us that's, sleeping in class, we got to find out why that kid's sleeping in class, find out, that kid may have been, dealing with abuse the night before, or, they may have been dealing with alcohol abuse, domestic violence. But we've got to, know that kid, and we have to, before we can send that kid out and automatically say, we're going to send this kid, we're going to suspend them. And when you start that suspension, that's going to start the process right there early on. So we've got to have that tough conversation with those teachers.
Thank you for that. Edward Anderson, you are now with On Track. Can you talk a little more about what this organization does, what services that you are providing?
Absolutely. On Track Greenville is situated in the United Way of Greenville County. It started about 6 years ago when a national movement around middle schools began. Basically, the research showed that students really drop out mentally in middle school and they physically do it in high school. And so how do we catch them in the middle school and intervene so they can stay on track to graduate on time? And so there were 3 predictors. There was attendance, behavior, and course performance. And I'm so glad you brought up that school to prison pipeline, because what we're seeing the most damage being done, honestly, is within that behavior, that discipline realm. If students aren't in school and we're pushing them out, then they're not learning, which therefore impacts all 3 of the predictors for high school graduation. All right, so we've already set them on a course for failure. So what our organization is able to do is we bring community partners together. We have some federal grants, and we provide about $2 million of support every year to about 6 of the highest poverty schools in Greenville County. Every week, teams within the schools convene to discuss which kids are off track to graduate based on those attendance, behavior, and course performance. When they're off track, what we do is we put a school-based health clinic in the schools where we provide a nurse practitioner and medical professionals in each of those schools. We provide summer programming, after-school programming, and other critical supports like case management around students. So once those students are identified in those schools, they get immediately matched to an intervention. Now, the intervention and the matching process is where the real work happens, because it's not a Band-Aid. It's not intended to just we're just going to, give them an after school program just to have it. We're going to give them something because of the root of their challenge or their problem. We had a student, for example, a few years ago who acting up, misbehavior. Once we went through that meeting and made some connections with the home, we found out that actually his dad had passed away a few years before that. The root of his discipline was actually in the fact that he had not had grief counseling. He had some mental health challenges. His mom was struggling now being the breadwinner of the home. So we were able to go into the home and provide supports from the community end. But within the school, we were able to get him free medical care. We were able to get him physical so he could play sports and become successful. So we were able to provide and get down to the roots to provide the right intervention. And so that's the type of support and work that we do within On Track in partnership with the district to provide for our most vulnerable and marginalized students.
Amazing work. It's great things happening in South Carolina, let's say. Pharrell Thomas, I want to come to you next because, and let's talk about leadership. And I was glad to hear Dr. Grant speak on that it's bigger than educational leadership. And so I love that piece. So we know that leadership is about influence and impact, not about title, not about position. We are aware of that. How can you or the group, when you're going out and consulting, how are you developing those? Because it was also mentioned that the hallmark of leadership is developing of the leaders. We know that as well. So what's the plan to go out to help? Are you all doing assessing an audit of leadership? How are you designing of how to help specific leaders? Do they come to you with the need, or you actually design an audit to find out exactly what's needed?
Well, I guess that would be a twofold thing. If you just heard Dr. Anderson there, Dr. Anderson is our strategic brain piece there, and he's gathering data right now. I think the clear answer with that, it starts within us. First, we have to be connected with each other, fully vested in what we are able to do and our abilities. And so what Dr. Anderson's done, he's actually interviewing each one of us individually and see what common threads and things that bind us together, and those things that we have sharing the commonality as far as education, our experiences in the past, because we all know our experiences is what has made us and allowed us to be who we are and what we do. We all have some past, but that past, and there's a bridge, there's a connection right there that has enabled us to be leaders, not just in our schools, but in our homes and in our communities. And so as all former teachers, most of us, the best way to do that is to model that. So we have to make sure that we're solid first, and then go out into neighboring school districts and communities, because we want to have men mirror us in the terms of leadership, and particularly African-American men. I know that I didn't have anyone that I could go to. This is why I love this group so much. When I was a teacher, I didn't have anyone that I could aspire to or be or look to. And each one of these guys, I pull something from myself. And so that's how powerful this thing is. And we don't want to keep this to ourselves. We want to give this out to others to be able to use as a model to help mold and shape those African-American teachers and move from the classroom into more impactful positions as school leaders.
I love that. Thank you. Mr. Qualls, I tell you, and you're the only one that I've seen in action right now, but I'm going to be watching you all. You're the only one that I've seen in action. And so I know the energy that you provide to your staff and to your community, which I have definitely applauded you for in the past. And that's something that leaders need, because as we know, you have to connect with your community. And someone mentioned building those relationships with your staff, your students, and the community. And I just see you from afar that that's something that you have a magic touch with doing. And so I want you to share just a little bit, because as you all are touching leaders across the nation, because I see it, how are you going to impart all of that? Because I think someone mentioned you're taking the best of what each of you have to offer and packaging that up, and that's how you're going to help these individuals. How do you plan to make that first step? Because, a relationship builder, that's not something that's innate. Like you can work on that, but that has to be a part of who you are. It has to be. Mm-hmm. So in working with the broad, how do you extend that and try to put that magic in other leaders?
I think you have to begin with the facts. People don't want to hear what you feel. They want to hear what you've done. And so just last night, we had a great conversation, and I was sharing my entry into principalship. My first year, that summer, I learned that I was losing $135,000 out of my Title I fund. I was hiring over 20 new staff members in various grade levels and departments. For many of my students and teachers, I was going to be their third principal in 3 years. I walked into double-digit loss in ELA and math on our state's assessment. Given the new accountability system, our elementary school would have been one of the lowest performing. And so the energy and the passion that I had had my entire career was amped up. You know, should they really call you Mr.? Are you as impactful and effective as folks say that you are? And so I accepted the challenge. And so just being honest and vulnerable and telling that story, you know, now we are the number 8 elementary school in our district, the number 1 Title I school. We've maintained that, the highest student progress in the state of South Carolina. And, you know, we have a very unique school, highest Hispanic population, high newcomer population. So the challenges are there, but when you get the results and you're able to share that and share it from a place of vulnerability, that's powerful, that's bold.
That's bold. I love it. I tell you guys, you know, we're going to have to do a special Education First special with you guys, because first of all, this is not even all of the guys. This is just a few of them. And so I really, as you dive in, like I really want to connect so that we can really go deeper into what you guys are doing and how you can really get out to help these leaders across the nation, because it's needed. And not only new leaders, we're talking established leaders, also need this support. And so I love the fact that you come together. It warms my heart that you come together to do good. And so this is what it's all about. And so what I want you to do, Damon, I want to ask that you share the bold contact information, how people can contact you and get that information out. But then I'm going to ask you individually to please share your social media following so that our viewers can connect with you individually as well. So Damon, if you could start out with the bold and then give your information, and we'll do individuals.
Absolutely. So you can visit the website, boldleadershipconsultants.com. All of our social media info is on there for Facebook, Instagram, as well as Twitter. All of our bios, a video explaining who we are, what we do, and why we do it. And again, that's boldleadershipconsultants.com.
Awesome. And can you share your individual information?
Yes. So you can follow me on Instagram at Mr. Teach, MISTERTEACH, on Twitter at DM Qualls, QUALLS, and of course, Damon Qualls on Facebook and LinkedIn.
Thank you. Carlos?
Yes, you can follow me on Facebook at Carlos Grant. You can follow me on Twitter at Dr. C. Grant, and Instagram at Dr. Grant 1906. And I think that's all.
All right, Aquaman. Okay, I hear you.
I'm not gonna let you get away with that. Not with 3 nukes on the.
That's right.
No,
that's right.
Not with 3 nukes.
No, sir.
I love it.
No, sir.
Okay, Chris, you can go.
Yes, ma'am. You can follow me on Facebook at Chris McCants, Instagram at Professor Noop07. You can follow me on Twitter at Principal Chris M.
Awesome. Pharrell Thomas.
Yeah, you can follow me on Facebook as well as at Pharrell Thomas. Yeah, my son's Pharrell as well, but I think he goes by another name. All right, so and then on Twitter at Tech TEC capital KNOWLEDGEY 55. So that's at Technology 55.
Awesome. Thank you. Corey Collington.
You can follow me on Facebook at Corey Collington. Also on Twitter at Mr. C. Collington 78. And then on Instagram at Educated Brother 78.
Awesome. Dr. Edward Anderson.
Yes, ma'am. You can follow me on Twitter at Educator86. Instagram, you can follow me at Dr. Edward Anderson. Facebook at EJ Anderson.
That's it.
Okay, thank you.
Well, guys, I tell you,
we should use the same name, right?
Exactly. Guys, I really thank you, because what you're doing is absolutely needed, and it's absolutely amazing. And yes, it is bold, and I love it. And so hopefully, again, we can connect so that we can go a little deeper, have a little more time, and maybe invite more of your consultants in, because this is awesome. So are you all up and running? You're ready to for clients at this point?
We are.
You're ready.
Are.
Okay.
I
That's
think we all have our niche, and we stay in our lane. And so, yeah, we welcome.
That's awesome. So I'm definitely, I will connect with you, Damon. So guys, I applaud you and say congratulations. And I look forward to seeing great things coming out of this group. So thank you.